You stand under neon rain, sharp wavelengths slicing wet asphalt, where the sky is a functional display, a multiplex of strata. This is not metaphor. You can measure it. Above the 10 to the 2 meter city skyline, between 10 to the 2 and 10 to the 4 meters, subtle distortions ripple at frequencies outside standard atmospheric acoustic bands, 20 to 20,000 hertz. Scene 1. Neon city at night. Subtle distortions in sky.
You look up. The air bends unnaturally, refracting at gradients inconsistent with known thermodynamic lapse rates. Scene 2. Man looking up as air bends unnaturally. Anomalous refractive indices reveal a faint interface, thin as a membrane, at optical depth tau equals 0.01. Scene 3. Sky revealing faint hidden layer above.
When reality fractures, it does so like tempered glass under stress, linear elastic until yield, then brittle shear. Scene 4. Reality cracks open like glass. You feel the microsecond of transition, a change in boundary conditions sufficient to flip local state variables. Scene 5. Transition into glowing atmospheric layer.
The first layer is alive, not solid, not empty. It behaves as a viscous continuum with emergent autonomous structures, coherent over scales from meters to kilometers. Biophysical analog, a plankton bloom, but of vapor-organized motes. Movement verticalizes. In this medium, vectors align to gradients in potential. Forward momentum is subordinated to altitude-dependent shear.
Crossing this membrane changes your constitutive parameters. You either adapt or break. Molecular bonds reorient. Neural phase locking adjusts. Metabolism redisperses. Wind creatures race through the layer as if following geodesics on a curved manifold. Scene 6. Wind creatures racing through sky.
Their vorticity signatures show Kolmogorov-like cascade, but inverted. Energy flows upscale instead of down. Scene 7. Creatures dissolving and reforming. Their form is metastable, persistent only as long as coherence length chi-squared greater than organismal size.
Your hand phases through, quantum tunneling analog at a macroscopic scale, boundary layer permeability fluctuating exponentially with local field strength. Scene 8. Hand phasing into new dimension. Scene 9. Body transforming mid-transition. Scene 10. Floating in unstable gravity. Gravity becomes a function g of z t psi with temporal noise. You float, then sink, then stall, an intermittent pull that is predominantly vertical.
As entities circle, patterns emerge. Transient faces, recognition templates that your cognition misapplies. Scene 11. Creatures circling rapidly. Scene 12. One forms a face briefly. A violent vertical pull yanks you upward. Acceleration peaks measured in g-forces exceed comfortable norms. An impulsive delta V that rearranges vestibular expectations. Scene 13. Violent vertical pull upward. Scene 14. Tunnel between dimensions. You arrive in a shadow layer where light is rejected. Absorption coefficients approach unity across visible spectra. Scene 15. Arrival in shadow layer. Silence replaces motion. The acoustics collapse. Modes are evanescent. Sound energy dissipates into the medium as non-propagating field modes. Scene 16. Shadow beings gliding silently. They teleport through surfaces. Topology of space is discontinuous. Continuity is no longer guaranteed. Scene 17. Teleporting through surfaces.
Underfoot, ground dissolves. Phase boundaries recede like disappearing shorelines. Scene 18. Ground dissolving under feet. A massive dark entity approaches, an attractor in phase space with many body correlations. Scene 19. Massive dark entity approaching. Eyes appear, not reflectors, but apertures to other coordinate charts. Scene 20. Eyes appearing in darkness.
Then, catastrophe. You fall downward, a sudden change in the field gradient, into an energy-dense region. Scene 21, sudden fall downward. Scene 22, explosion into energy layer. This strata is raw electromagnetic and plasma dynamics. Charged beings expand and contract as Larmor orbits, their frequencies tied to local B fields. Scene 23, beings made of electricity. Your body destabilizes. Ionic gradients reverse. Membranes become semi-permeable to photon flux. Scene 24, body destabilizing with light. Energy flows through you in pulses, phase-shifting your coherence. Scene 25, energy passing through body. Beyond perception, an infinite lattice of current channels stretches, an energy network with node density n much greater than 10 to the 6th per cubic kilometer. Scene 26, energy network spreading infinitely. Hands dissolve into particle ensembles. Your mass redistributes as delocalized excitations. Scene 27, hands dissolving into particles. You reform with glowing seams, seams that are sutures of field lines, reconnection zones in a magnetized plasma. Scene 28, body reforming with glowing seams. A massive energy core pulses with period T and amplitude A. It reacts to your presence as a sensor-actuator loop. Scene 29, massive energy core pulsing. Scene 30, core reacting to character. You launch, propelled into a temporal manifold where time fractures. Scene 31, launch into time layer. Here, timelines are not single-threaded. They overlap, create interference. Scene 32, multiple timelines overlapping. You see multiple versions of yourself converging and diverging, like eigenstates collapsing under observation. Scene 33, multiple versions of self. Time dilates and freezes inconsistently. Local tau experiences abrupt jumps. Acceleration of subjective proper time varies by orders of magnitude. Scene 34, time freezing and accelerating. Entities move across these strata, path-dependent and non-Markovian. Scene 35, creatures moving across time. Movement lags behind intention. Neural command delays become measurable latencies as different histories recombine. Scene 36, movement lagging behind intention. The time layer destabilizes. Causality gaps form. Scene 37, layers blend. Phase diagrams merge, yielding new emergent phases. Scene 39, layers blending together. You arrive into the void. Scene 40, arrival into void. Absolute silence, absolute dark. Scene 41, absolute silence and darkness. Distortions ripple even in nothingness. Topology is being rewritten. Scene 40. A presence bends reality subtly. Even thought has metric effect. Scene 43. Presence bending reality. You try to move. Inability is physical. No vectors are defined. Scene 44. Inability to move. But the void reacts to thought. Intent collapses local probability distributions. Scene 45. Void reacting to thought. Space shifts subtly. Positions have no fixed coordinates, but relational indices. Scene 46. Space shifting subtly. A presence approaches without movement, non-local approach, mediated by changing boundary conditions. Scene 47. Presence approaching without movement. Darkness consumes everything, not by expansion, but by substitution. The void overwrites state definitions. Scene 48. Darkness consuming everything. A flash reveals all layers stacked like transparent films, each with its own rules, frequencies, and governance. Scene 49. Flash revealing all layers stacked. You perceive the infinite layered universe. Scene 50. Infinite layered universe ending shot. Reality was never a limit, only the beginning of a recursive system. Each layer has a core. Each core knows you're here. Cores register perturbations with sensitivity beyond classical detectors.
on the order of 10 to the negative 24th joule perturbation detectability, mediated by entangled sensor networks. Time fractures into concurrency, and you exist multiple times, each instance a node in an interlayer web.
The system reacts, everything shifts. You are no longer voyeur, you become an actor, a boundary condition. Movement becomes control. You learn to manipulate gradients, to induce resonance across disparate eigenmodes. Control becomes survival, as adversarial processes, corruption, propagate like epidemics through topological defects.
Corruption spreads with exponential growth rates. R0 analogs exceed 2.7 when unmitigated. War begins, order clashing with entropy, systematic reconstruction against stochastic dissolution. You are pulled into it. You evolve at acceleration AE much greater than expected, learning to phase between layers by will, neuroplastic rewiring at kilohertz modulation. But it is not enough.
Something greater arrives, an emergent predator with evolutionary velocity outpacing your adaptive loops. Everything starts collapsing. Strongholds fail. Even the strongest fall. Silence follows. Then a path appears. Not natural, created. An engineered corridor with negative entropy flow. You follow. You reach the highest layer, a civilization beyond chaos. Architects of thought materialization.
They build with intention, sculpting space-time with cognitive fields. Their engineering uses light as vector and metadata as matter. Even they fear the corruption. War becomes total. System-level feedback loops cascade. You are absorbed into the systemic struggle, fighting and adapting. The enemy evolves faster, stronger, endless. Retreat becomes survival. Refuge is temporary.
Something else watches from above, not part of the system, external, binocular to the multiverse. It sees you. It calls. You rise beyond all layers, beyond structure, beyond the operational envelope of reality. It shows you the truth. This cycle, creation, collapse, repeat, has occurred before. The pattern is fractal, periodic with long-term recurrence intervals on cosmological scales.
But you resist. You change the attractor. You become not one but many, distributed across layers, a connective lattice. You bind the system. You hold reality together. For the first time, it reacts. Everything stops. Then rebuild. A new system emerges, stronger, connected, alive.
Yet even at the limit, far away, something still moves. The final frame is not closure, but an ellipsis, an implicit seed. You have begun a new epoch, but beginnings beget cycles. The end is also the threshold.
Prompt not provided.
Prompt not provided.
Prompt not provided.
Hello, I'm a sample audio. Upload or regenerate your own speech to add an interesting speech to your video. Hello, I'm a sample audio. Upload or regenerate your own speech to add an interesting speech to your video.